Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words, and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage temps, turn up the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or you can join our group on Facebook at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. Welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show, a much more sedate Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show this week as compared to last. We are back, and I think we've recovered. We've shaken the cobwebs of alcohol-induced hangover, and back to talk about the issues of the day, philosophy, and general nonsense. My name is Graham Wilson, and joining us as always from Perth Amboy, New Jersey, it is the Rev. Hail, hail, Rev.
Hi.
Rev, you're a little under the weather today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got a cold. I got a fever.
Oh, no. It is that time of year. I mean, it's...
You want to hear how I think I got it?
Yeah, actually I do. This should be good. Yeah.
So, last Friday, right?
Yeah.
In Philly.
Yeah.
Everyone's drinking.
Apparently.
Allegedly. You got Amy a drink that got her really wasted.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This is how it's gonna go, right? I slipped a roofie to your wife. Is that pretty much your angle here?
No. You just bought her a drink, and then she got drunk, and then we went back to the hotel, but she didn't button up her jacket, so she got a cold, and then now transferred it to me. So really, you got me sick.
Blame Graham. Yeah.
Blame Graham.
Yeah, that all. You know what? I think there actually is an ICD-10 code. That's a perfect. We'll have Dr. J on later. He's the expert in ICD-9 codes. I think there actually is a code for that. You can bill your insurance company under Blame Graham. I think is the official diagnosis. So, really sorry. You know, it wasn't intentional on my part. Next time, you know, I just won't buy you any drinks.
Fair enough.
And and you know, I hope that she is feeling better as well. I know that it was a rough Saturday for her.
Oh yeah, she's red as rain.
It was a rough Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for a lot of folks that were in attendance last weekend. Yeah. Just want to thank the Plow on the Stars, John Joe from Plow on the Stars, Seamus Commons, obviously for putting on again a fantastic weekend last weekend in Philadelphia. We had so many people that turned out, and just, you know, the response and in such a short amount of time. I mean, the work that Seamus Commons put in trying to organize everything. I mean, you know, Deco started it. got the ball rolling as he typically does. And just in a month's time, we had CSCs from Canada and the southeastern U.S. and, all throughout the northeastern corridor, to the point where I really think we should do that more regularly. It's just phenomenal. And it was a great opportunity to cast aside for just a weekend or just a short period all of the tension that's really built up over the past couple of months, especially on Twitter and message boards, et cetera, where, there's been a split amongst the support on so many different issues. When everybody gets together, obviously it highlights the imperfect medium that is Twitter. When you're just relegated to 140 characters and you're trying to cram everything that you feel into one tweet, often times that the context is lost and some of the nuance is removed. And when you get people together, you can, I think, more completely explain yourself and do it in a way that I think is more open-minded or is projected to be more open-minded. And, we can just get down to the business of being Celtic supporters, just getting together, having a sing-song, getting absolutely pished out of their minds, in Dr. J's case, falling asleep right at the table.
I missed that.
Exactly. There's all sorts of stuff. So it was just an amazing, amazing weekend. Once again, Philadelphia has been such a venue for us several times now, and the Plow and the Stars, just a fantastic job from everybody, the hospitality from the entire staff, John Joe, and everybody there. We obviously can't thank them enough. What was your highlight of last weekend? Before we get into the game today, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with the game, but let's just sort of tie everything together from last weekend. Your moment of the weekend. There were so many.
I mean, yeah, like when we did the little wrap up video last week, it was pretty much the general consensus was just everyone being together. But after that, once I kind of recollected my thoughts and everything and tried to remember what was happening for the majority of the weekend. Just nothing major, but just a little thing I thought was cool because I wore, my Celtic St. Pauli half and half scarf, and just, especially as the night went on, just the more people I passed by, everyone's, tapping the St. Pauli badge and giving it a kiss and stuff like that. I just thought that was, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, and I thought that we got a good cross-section of a lot of different demographics that showed up, young and old, people of all sorts of different backgrounds, Americans, native-born Scots, Irish, just people from the southeast of the United States. I mean, we had, he's not a hillbilly, he's a hill Tim. Chris, obviously, 8th Throckmorton 1. He doesn't, please do not refer to him as a hillbilly. He is a hill Tim. And I loved hanging out with him as well. And, you look around, and my wife even has commented on this in the past, but she did bring it up again. There's so many random people that all just sort of come together, and it just clicks from the first moment. You've never met any of these people before, but knowing that they are Celtic supporters, what type of people that they are. And, a couple of comments from folks when they see Chris and they're like, "Well, geez, man, what's he doing here?" And you got to take a step back and think to yourself and really have the conscious thought that this is what Celtic is all about. It's about just accepting everybody. Everybody is welcome, no matter what you look like, no matter what your background is. And granted, there's some tendencies of people in the South and especially the Southeast of the United States. But if we're going to just judge people based on their accent or where they're from or what they look like, that is exactly the antithesis of what it means to be a Celtic supporter. And when you talk to Chris and, you get a sense for his background and his understanding and appreciation of Celtic and of the issues that are the integral parts of supporting Celtic. That he's one of us. It doesn't matter. So it's just a great time, to just step back away from Twitter and social media and all that, and just it was a nice reminder of again what at its core, yeah, we're gonna have disagreements and some conflict here and there. We're a family, but this is what's important. This is what it's all about, and it was perfect timing as well. It was. In spite of leaving Philadelphia and, just absolutely being shattered, it was very recharging, in a lot of ways. So 4-0 today, Rev, against the team that plays in green, and that's pretty much it, right on the Leith. Hibs, a Hibs team that is now led by Terry Butcher, Mr. Anti-Football himself. I mean,
I didn't even know he was a manager. I don't remember reading that happening.
Wake up, Rev. Rev.
My bad.
Rev. There are resources. It's called the internet. You can type in Google, and it has all.
Well, I never had to care to think, oh, I wonder who Hibs' current manager is.
That's a good point. Like, who gives
a
shit?
That doesn't mean anything to me. It's interesting now finding out, but yeah.
Now the starting 11 comes out, and Georgios Samaras is starting. That seemed to get a bit of attention, we'll just say, from Twitter and elsewhere. A lot of people in the run-in saying Sammy can't play. Neil Lennon alluded to the fact that he's fit again, so he would be available. But given the uncertainty about what his future is going to be, are we going to sell him in the next week, or are we going to let him run his contract out and let him go someplace else in the summertime for free, which I think would be the stupidest thing ever. And to have him start today, in light of all that, in light of the fact that Neil Lennon has made comments in the past about wanting the second half of this season to be a prelude, so to speak, to those Champions League qualifiers, getting a core group of players together that are going to just be able to click right in come July and get right into these qualifiers. When you start a player up top to lead the line who is very likely not going to be here for these qualifiers, it's understandable to have some confusion, is it not, Rev?
No, it definitely is. And, not even, that part aside of what his future is, it's just his current form. Like you said, is he, people are wondering, is he even fit? And he's the lone striker for today. It's a head scratcher.
Especially a role that he hasn't had much success with in the past.
Right.
I mean, he's been a dynamic player for us on that left-hand side, as we've talked about ad nauseum, but up top in a central position, he just doesn't offer what we need for that. Now, with that being said, he did have several instances where he flicked the ball on nicely, which is what you want from a target man if you need an escape route from the back line through the air. But he doesn't do it consistently enough, and when you want to keep it on the ground and play some football, he has a tendency to just sort of take the ball for a mindless run and not really facilitate a build-up or any sort of link-up. And to Chris Commons' credit, I mean, oftentimes when Sammy's off doing his wandering, Chris Commons has to do the work for two players up top, and he does it quite well. I mean, that goal that he scored to open the scoring today was an absolute thing of beauty. I mean, the center halves from Hibs obviously made a complete and utter shambles of that. Zero communication, and somebody ought to introduce them, to be honest with you. But Chris Commons was right where he needed to be, and that finish was exceptional. Just sort of fading away. I mean, obviously, he's away, but he loses his balance somewhat, and his finishing is absolutely extraordinary.
The first goal, I unfortunately I missed, and I didn't get a chance to look at highlights yet, so I'm gonna have to defer to you on that.
Damn it, Rev!
Sorry to break your streak there.
So we come out with this 4-4-1-1 that's been the preferred formation for Neil Lennon for much of the season. We've talked about, especially last week, about the lack of sort of ingenuity that we've seen over the past couple of years from a formation standpoint. I think a lot of that comes down to the absence of Victor Wanyama and the fact that our midfield has become much more one-dimensional. Hopefully that can be remedied by the introduction of Stefan Johansson, who came on for the last 5 minutes of the game today. Obviously, there's a lot. There's not a lot that you can take from that. 5, 6, 7 minutes maybe, but he does. There's players that go out there and you can tell that it's their first game. They look maybe a bit nervous, maybe a bit confused in between two minds. He looked very poised. He looks a tidy player. He looks like the passes that he made, they were well weighted. Obviously, this is very little to go on, but there's just a sense that you get when you see a player come onto the park and they don't feel or look out of place, and he certainly has that.
I think it also helped him, coming on when it was, I think, 3-0 at that time.
True, good point.
So he didn't have to come in with any pressure. He didn't have to be a game changer, anything like that. So, which is good, because what better way do you want to come on for your first thing? I mean, maybe start a game or come in earlier, but I mean, to be able to come on and as a substitute with no pressure, that's in itself a confidence builder, I believe.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. We also saw Virgil van Dijk, which there was some confusion watching the game in the pub today. You see these two just gigantic statues of players. Charlie Mulgrew, who, we saw him in the flesh, and he is absolutely massive. He's giant. He could play tight end, maybe middle linebacker in the NFL. I mean, he's literally that big, 6'5", and built like a brick shithouse. And you put Virgil van Dijk right next to him, who's, he's built like an action figure. You have two hulking giant players who can take a free kick, one with his left foot, sweet left foot on Charlie Mulgrew, and then Virgil van Dijk, who we've seen take a couple of free kicks this season, but and the word on him, the scouting when he first came in was that he could take a free kick and he was good in dead ball situations, but we really haven't seen the best out of him just yet. Today we finally saw it. What a thing of beauty. I mean, the technique, everything.
I think that was something that was set up on the training ground, because it looked like Joe Ledley kind of had, played a little part in breaking up the wall, to give him a nice little gap between players to sneak that through. So, I mean, just all around that.
It looks like the Revs connection has gone sick as well.
You hear me?
Rev, you're breaking up like Bo Richter.
No, I said...
you were pointing out Joe Ledley and his role in in the wall and everything. That's a good piece to pick up on there as well. I mean, his placement of that ball, it was absolutely impossible for the keeper to get it. Top shelf, right there in the corner. And on the replays, this is exactly what you want to show kids. When they're practicing taking free kicks, the technique that he had was absolutely extraordinary for a big man. I mean, there's just. And this is something that I want to talk a little bit about, perhaps a bit later. But it's this sort of this vibe that we always have every time we have one of these prolific players, a great player with loads of talent, doing brilliant things. It's almost bittersweet, because every time you see them, you get so excited. It's like, wow, that's phenomenal, and that's the type of player that we should have. But always in the back of your mind, you always have that thought, like, there's no way we're keeping him.
Oh, yeah, the countdown definitely starts.
Exactly. I mean, all it's going to do, for these moments that he has, and he just continues to impress me and surprise me in good ways with every game. I mean, he's so comfortable bringing the ball out himself, almost as a deep-lying midfielder, that he can advance the ball up the park himself. I mean, obviously, we saw him score a wonder goal early in the season, but you saw it so many more times, additional times today. Even taking the ball out wide, his skill with the ball at his feet is extraordinary for a big man. Again, you don't typically see that from a center half. So all he's doing by these continued improving performances and this display is two things. Number one, I think he is stamping his place on that plane for the Dutch team to go to Brazil. I don't think there's any way you can leave him off, considering his age. I mean, obviously he's developing still, but the amount of composure and the amount of intelligence, his ability to read the game is extraordinary. And just his ability to do the things that you would expect of a center half, you cannot exclude him. I mean, even just for cover, obviously everybody knows how far it is for, especially these European teams, to get to Brazil. And then once you're in Brazil, Brazil's a massive country. So there's going to be so much travel in between countries. You never know what's going to happen in between now and then. And then when you get there, you pick up injuries and things like that. To have Virgil van Dijk as your cover, that's absolutely phenomenal. It's a great resource for the Dutch team. I have every confidence he's going to Brazil. I can't think of any reason why he wouldn't be on that plane. But it is a bit of a catch-22, as we talked about, because the more exposure that he gets playing this well, in addition to playing in the World Cup, the more likely it is that he's going to be away. It's just an eventuality that we can't stave off. The amount of money that's going to be offered for him is going to be too much to resist, in my opinion. I hope that we can keep him for an additional season, but I'm not so sure. Now joining us from... And the, I guess he's back on the canoe. He's got the phone on vibrate, probably right next to his microphone. Good Lord, it's Dr. J. Yeah, wow. And now we're getting feedback. Turn your speakers down.
Radio should be off. Should be good.
All right, I'm getting feedback from somewhere. Dr. J, welcome to the show.
No, I turned the speaker off. I'm on my phone.
Lovely. It's a little bit better now. Maybe it's the Rev. Rev, turn your speaker down.
I'm on mute.
We should do this from Philly every week.
Yeah, I think the audio quality would be better in spite of the fact that we were not half in the bag. We were fully in the bag with the bag drawstring closed. Dr. J, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in. We're just talking about this conundrum that we're facing here with a player like Virgil van Dijk, but we see this constantly, especially most recently with Victor Wanyama, where we bring in a dynamic player and they continue to do great things, but our enthusiasm, excitement for these great things that they're doing is oftentimes tempered by the fact that we know they're on their way out. It's a catch-22, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. I think what we saw today was a statement by Van Dijk. Hey, Van Gaal, you can't ignore me.
I agree.
That's what that was.
I agree.
That's. I mean, come on, you gotta be kidding me. I think he was the ultimate cleanup man today. Baton left, Fisher exposed the entire first half. He did not have the best day ever, and Fisher, to his credit, hung in there. He did the first half. I mean, with Collins was running down that left side for a couple times and basically exposed Fisher, but that's because Baton let him run.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. There wasn't much help sliding over there.
Oh, no, hell no. And then what ended up happening was Van Dijk had to come over and Effie had to come over. And it's funny. I like just trying to flip through certain things as the game goes on. And everyone's like, oh, Effie's a bomb scare. Well, shit, he just ran 30 yards to clean up what Baton just did. And, of course, you're going to not hit the perfect pass after trying to clean up because Fisher got beat because he had a 2-on-1.
That's a great point.
I mean,
yep.
That's one of those things. The one thing I will say, if you're watching the game closely, and I sat there today and just took notes. It was great to be in a quiet room with black coffee watching the game.
Enough of that nonsense, with whatever it was, the hell we were drinking last week. I don't even remember.
Yeah. And you could see the one thing that I think that they've actually pulled the reins back on Effie, because what you don't see him do is you don't see him, kind of, scamper down the middle of the field with the ball and then stop and then turn it back.
Yeah, you're seeing more of that from Van Dijk these days, which I like to see. I mean, we were just talking about this. The amount of skill that he has with the ball at his feet is so impressive.
Without a doubt. He's done a really, really good job. I've really, really been impressed with what he's done, and I don't think anyone can say anything different than that. But I mean, I'm not a genius football guy, but I mean, you can tell he just bosses people off the ball. He cleans up messes. He's literally just Johnny on the spot for this team. And when something goes wrong at the back, he's right there, and has been probably the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. They've just been rock solid at the back, and he's been it. And you got to give credit, and Van Dijk, yes, but you've got to give credit to Effie. You really have. I mean,
I agree.
Yet I guarantee you, he's not perfect. And you got to understand, if he was, he would be in the same boat with Van Dijk. He wouldn't be here.
But he does take a lot. He does take a lot of stick, though. That's an exceptional point. A lot of people point to the fact that Van Dijk is so good, and it makes up for the errors of Fa. But I don't necessarily see Fa as the one who's making a lot of the errors. I mean, and let's keep in mind the amount of opportunities, the amount of situations where Fa is needed are few and far between. So when he does
today was I mean, the Hibs. I'll give Hibs this. They didn't pack it in totally. I mean, the beginning of the second half, they put Frazier to the wall a couple times. I mean, he was
What a performance!
And that was tough today.
What a performance from Forster today as well. I mean, it's shades of the Forster that we saw last season, where we were this time last season thinking, it's going to be everything that we can do to keep him at Celtic. Unfortunately, we could keep him, for another season. Hopefully, we can keep him for several more seasons. And he's another one that we got to talk about who's going to be in the conversation. I don't see there's any other way than Hodgson needs to consider taking him to Brazil. I mean, the options are Joe Hart is an absolute bomb scare. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, there are situations where a player, and especially goalkeepers, confidence is absolutely vital for them in their decision making, in their role within their own particular club. The amount of communication, it's so vital. But you see players that lose confidence, and maybe they'll go on a spell. For 3, 4, 5 games this entire season, he's been absolutely missing. And even going into last season, I think that there was so much to be desired that was left to be desired. I think that he's really running on his past reputation, and the amount of poor performances that he's had in the interim, I think, far outweigh a lot of the reputation that he had. Who's left after that? I mean, maybe Ben Foster, maybe Ruddy. I mean, seriously, these are the people that you're putting Fraser Forster up against, a player that really just shut down Barcelona, not too long ago. I don't see how that.
Extrapolate that out. Let's extrapolate that out. What's the Ange Postecoglou? Is that his name? The manager of Australia. What did he say to Rogic? If you don't play, you're not going to make the bus.
Yeah, and that's just it.
And I mean, if he was the coach or manager of England, you think he would say that to Hart? Of course he would. There's got to be something there. Hart has to have pictures of Roy Hodgson doing something.
Maybe he has pictures of the bus from Australia to Brazil. Is there a bus that goes from Australia to Brazil?
It may be. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. You get on the bus to get to the airport. You got to be playing.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
What he said. Yeah, right. Drown. But no, I mean, that's how I see it. You got to be doing it. But as far as today's game, I thought the pitch was absolute shit.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times today when short-footed players, Ledley, Brown, whatever. Just the ball would bounce everywhere. That was a tough pitch day to put the ball on the deck and roll it around. I thought it was bouncy.
That's a good point. So? I agree completely. That's a very good point. I mean, obviously it was waterlogged. It was wet. There was some conversation this morning amongst the message boards and so on. I don't know how credible it was, but there was a lot of rain, especially this morning. Obviously, we saw the sunshine on Leith come out in the afternoon, but the pitch was waterlogged. I mean, obviously not so much to cancel the game, but that's on the players. That's on the staff to get the studs in the boots to the proper length. I mean, if you need to get the long studs, get the long studs. It
was Commons in the first half when he had that chance to go cut inside and fell down.
We do see this happen with Celtic. Where on these lousy surfaces, especially when they're wet, we lose our footing, and then it seems as though we can't complete a 5-yard pass. We saw several instances of that as the first half drew to a close. Now, it seemed as though obviously much of that was remedied in the second half. I think a lot of it had to do with the substitution that Neil Lennon made at halftime. And at the moment, totally. I was scratching my head like, wait, we're going to a 4-3-3 now? I mean, we're absolutely getting overrun in the middle of the park, and now we're going to a 4-3-3 with giving them 2 extra men in the middle of the park. But somehow it seemed to work.
You know what? You want to laugh when I was watching the game on Fox Soccer, as you put it. Fox Soccer. And I was checking my phone. I had it on mute because they show highlights from 1998 during halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just checking my phone for something. All of a sudden it came back on, and I saw Pookie, and they said, Pookie's on. I'm like, oh, shit, they sold Samaras at halftime. And I put it on. I was like, Baton. Oh, yeah, that too. Okay, never mind. And it made total sense. Did you notice? I mean, I was listening to another podcast on Hail Hill Media, and one of the guys that was talking about it was absolutely just talking about how he didn't rate Fisher and blah 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 blah. And I was sitting there listening to it, going, "Okay,
it's rubbish.
I'm done with it. Absolute shit." And I'm looking at it, going, "Okay, if you just put the first 20 minutes of Fisher in a test tube and just watched it, you would think, oh god, this guy's getting beat like a fucking rented mule." And if you back out and stop looking at the tree and look at the forest, then you start to see, well, no shit, Baton just basically let's be honest, he had a shit day. And he's not a shit player, he just had a shit day. And
look, it's going to happen. He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
This is like what his maybe third or fourth start, fourth max. To starting.
But how many one-on-ones did he take the guy down?
Well, and especially with Scott Brown, going down that right-hand side, he's more forward thinking. I mean, obviously he's not scared to put in a tackle, but I think that he had more of the attacking responsibilities and didn't do much to cover. And like you pointed out before, Baton didn't do much. When Brown vacated that space on the right to slide over and cover that space. And when
you see him getting or hear, you could, I don't know if you could hear, I don't know if you watched on Cell TV or the regular feed, whatever, but you could hear and see Bruni get in Baton shit maybe 4 or 5 times today. I want the ball here. What are you doing? I mean, it was amazing. The first probably 15 minutes, he jumped in his shit probably 2-3 times, and
sometimes it's got to happen.
Yelling at. Yeah, I mean, and that just and when he came off at halftime, I was like, oh, I guess Lenny sees it too. And I think the byproduct of that was that the fact that we became really, really narrow. This one we can't blame on Sammy and Mulgrew. I think we became narrow because Fisher basically could not bomb down that right side.
You're
because
right. Yeah, that's a good
was
point.
Basically giving the ball away in the middle of the field.
That's a good point.
And he wouldn't track back. And I think once you took Baton out and put Pookie in, it ended up doing something that I think we haven't give credit to Lenny, recognizing we're always on the whole thing, and I know at least once, Yampi's going to say from Boguson, but I think, not getting the striker thing, we can talk about that all day long. They're not here. I don't know if they're coming.
No.
I don't know what the fridge is going to be. We don't know yet, but what I'll say is this. He's tie it all together here. He's put Commons in that 9-hole, and the problem with that, and you saw it in the second half, was that once you put Commons in the 9-hole, then all of a sudden we're short number 10. And he right now he's on form. He can do either, and God bless him. I hope he continues to score goals, because God, I don't know where the fuck they're going to come from if he doesn't do it. But the problem we have is that when you take Commons out of the 10 and put him in the 9, now we don't have anybody to run that middle of the field. Baton was a little bit more of an engine before. He didn't do it today. He got exposed. Butcher found something and put pressure on him, and he folded. I get it. But as soon as you took Pookie, put him on, took Baton off, moved Commons back into the middle of the field into that 10, it took a little while. The first 10, 12 minutes of the second half, we kind of sputtered until Commons started to, move that ball around. And then all of a sudden, once he got back in there, it was fine. And I think that was a byproduct of no one being on that right side to protect Fisher, to be able to make us wider. I was specifically looking to see if Mulgrew was slowing things down, and he was trying to play catch up also in that second half. But once they basically stemmed the tide of Hibs thinking they were back in this, and then basically leveled the field out as compared to it being just straight downhill towards Forster, I really felt that then you were able to get Fisher on the right side. Then you were able to get Izzy, which he ran up and down as if he pleased on the left side. And then once that was able to happen, then you were able to open up. Both the last 2 goals really came from the fact that we were wide enough to be able to switch the ball back. It
reinstated our width. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. And I think you summed it up extremely well there. And another point, which you alluded to as well, I think the key there, that the key in the point that you made, is Scott Brown having to drop back and be more disciplined in terms of his positioning and covering Fisher himself, rather than, being forced to have that more forward role. Pookie was left with, and especially, Pookie does tend to drop wide. I mean, look at the goal that he scored. It's from sort of that right-hand top corner. When you have protection for Fisher, when he's not so isolated, it really does open up a lot more throughout the park. Even though we were down 2 men in the middle of the park, it seemed as though, we had the space to be able to facilitate a build-up, and there was a lot more understanding and cohesion about where everybody was supposed to be on the park, and it just seemed to click. Now I wanted to shift gears for just 1 second, and this takes us a bit off topic, but we'll get right back into it in terms of summing up the development of the second half. But Izagari, I mean, once again, he gets so much stick. I mean. And I've summed it up in terms of, he went out with the very debilitating injury, missed an entire season because of it, came back and really wasn't the same player, and maybe hasn't been the same type of player since. We've seen flashes of it, and we see more and more of it, in my opinion, every week, but he still gets that stick because he doesn't have it as consistently. This is a run, in my opinion, of the last 10 or so games where he's been absolutely phenomenal. In addition, we're seeing a lot of, now obviously, as we heard from Willie McNabb last week, and we've seen it with our own eyes, the fullbacks that play for Celtic have so many responsibilities and have to be really the fittest players on the park, no question about it. And we see, the likes of Lustig and Matthews and struggling to be able to deal with that over the course of a full season. We're blessed in the fact that we have 2 just top quality right backs, that can interchange when one goes out. And now we have Fisher, who I think is one for the future and a great player, a very good player at this moment. But Izagari, the durability of Izagari, considering how much he has to do, is extraordinary. And I think he's been phenomenal over these past several weeks, today included.
Yeah, I'm with you. And when Hail Hail Media put out their tweet today for the top 3, for me it was Forster, Van Dijk, Commons, and then you would ask me for forward, it'd been Izzy. And the reason being that I think that he gets the stick is because every 3rd or 4th cross is an absolute shank, as if we were playing golf.
And I think he's always done that. I mean,
I understand, but I know, but you're gonna ask the question why. I think that's the reason why. You can't say. I'll tell you this: he's not as much of a ball watcher as he was a couple years ago. And today he got beat for one header at the back post only because he's 5'8", 5'9". Not because he was ball watching, but because the guy just went over him. And today, I mean, he ushered balls out. He used his body. He was tough, and he knocked out. He saved a couple corners. I thought today defensively he was great. Offensively, he widens that left side. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I'm willing to give you 25% of the crosses being we'll call them less than stellar.
Shite.
Because he widens that field. If you're going to put Mulgrew on that left side, you need Izagiri to be able to open that space because
Mulgrew doesn't have the
No,
he doesn't have the pace to beat a man. That's the beauty of Izagiri. He's going to draw more than one player out there to come and get him, and that frees up a player like Samaras if he's cutting in from the left, or Comets,
totally.
Where they're not going to be marked. Or there's always going to be a free man with Izagiri being so dangerous down the left hand side, and if he can put in a good cross or a ball into the box, that's really when the magic happens. If we can isolate a striker with quality, that's where we've seen in the past with Hooper and Samaras when he's on form. That's really where we're at our most dangerous. So I am hoping that Izagiri starts to get the plaudits that I think he rightly and richly deserves, and we stop sort of trying to hold him to account based on that the form that he had and the impact that he had that first season. It's a completely different team. It's a completely different sort of style of play, in my opinion, as compared then and now.
Without doubt. And what's funny is, I tend to listen to the show live and then listen back later to pick up some finer points. And Yampy said something a couple weeks ago which was absolutely funny, and it was one of those
Sometimes
things like he said something like Izzy always gets to his left foot no matter what happens. Don't these guys just know he's going to go to his left foot? And I'm sitting there watching him, specifically last game and a half. I can't say I watched the whole game last week, but this especially today, he's going to get that ball on his fucking left foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna do it. He's gonna. I mean, granted, Van Dijk's first goal for Celtic was off of Izagiri's right foot on the right-footed cross. But I mean, every other time I've seen him cross, I don't care. He's gonna contort himself in any position he can to get that cross off his left foot. And God bless him, he can do it.
If you can
do it, that's good.
It's exactly. It's the type of thing where if you can execute and people can't stop you, then just keep doing it. I mean, it's Vince Lombardi power sweep. Hey, power sweep's coming again, bitch, and try and stop it. Yeah. Paul Horning, around the right hand side.
Let's talk about. You mentioned something. That's why I had to laugh. I have a new nickname for Sammy. I'm going to call him the Mir Space Station. Because he's just a pit stop between Forster and the strikers. Every ball that we play to him was like halfway to him, and he heads. And if he didn't win the ball, then fuck it, he just stood there and threw his arms. We need to
rename a rest stop on the Jersey Turnpike. The Georgia Samaras rest area, right after exit 7A, I think.
Yeah, he's the stop between our goal and the moon. He really. I mean, every freaking hot. We went back, and the first thing I wrote notes down today only because I just wanted to remember a couple things and. And the first thing I wrote down was, please, can we stop the long ball shit?
Yeah. Well, but I think it's also a product of the pitch. It's difficult, obviously, to play football on a surface like that, and we saw it improve as the game went on. I think that had a lot to do with it. But sometimes if we're going up against the side that's going to try and compress the middle of the park, as we've talked about, and press, and you don't have a Mulgrew that's going to drop back and try and safely grab that ball and drive and look to get into space, or if Ledley is pushed out wide left as he was today, sometimes that's our only option. I agree. I'd love to be able to play football, keep it on the floor and distribute, and try and get some tempo going, but sometimes that's our only option. But
obviously, our first goal with Izzy just knocking the ball up front and the two center halves deciding that they wanted to go make out at the top of the 18 while Commons finished it was obviously one over the top.
That's cute.
I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Forster punting the ball specifically in one direction, and that's directly at Sammy's head. I mean, he's up. It's like he's playing FIFA, and he's going, okay, where's my bullseye? There it is. Okay, great. And he's trying to knock it onto him, and I don't know. It's just one of those things that I assume is going to change, especially with the way. I'm hoping that
they sell him.
We can get that extra player.
They sell him.
Extra number 10.
Sell him. All right, let's talk about the strikers. Rev, by the way, Dr. J, your Skype line this week is absolutely crystal clear. Love it. Rev, no, I'm being serious. It was absolutely.
I got a new phone. That's why.
Oh, lovely. It was absolutely shocking at first, but we sorted it out. Rev, get in here. Are we going to keep Sammy? I don't know how to make heads or tails of this. I mean, given the cues and the signs that Neil Lennon is throwing out there, it doesn't make sense for me to play him today, as we talked about, if we're going to sell him, or I mean, are we still holding on to this hope that he's going to take less money for a short amount of time? I mean, that's never going to happen. Are we going to keep Sammy?
I think so. I think not what I would want or what I agree with.
It's not what anybody wants. That's for sure.
from what I've seen, if this was the second week in January, I'd say, okay, we're going to play him, put him up, let some other teams see him, remind everyone that he's around.
He's got the new Liza Minnelli haircut. I mean,
Right, but it's, the last game of the month, the window closes in 5 days. I don't see us getting rid of him. He's probably going to end up going for free in the summer.
We got to get our rabbit's foots out because, it makes absolutely no sense. I'd sell him for $50,000. I mean, just get something and get him off the wages. I mean, as it is, he's one of our highest paid players. So selling him on, even if it's for, a packet of, a bag of practice balls, even getting the wages off the book is huge, for this moment in time.
Didn't we sell him to Nance once? Didn't we sell him like a year and a half ago?
We tried.
To do a fee with Nance, and then he said no?
Yes, he refused.
Yeah.
He said.
Yeah, and I think, and to be honest with you, I guarantee you this. I'm not saying that I have a window into his mind, but if I'm him, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to bust my ass at the World Cup.
But that's,
I'm going to try and get myself a really good deal at the team who wanted to buy me before, and I'm going to keep some of that money that they were going to give Celtic.
But see, that's just it. I mean, he's not a lock for this Greek World Cup team. If he does decide he's going to try and run this contract out, and Neil Lennon decides he's not going to play him, he's not going to get the type of playing time when it becomes apparent that he's not going to re-sign. If he's not playing, as we talked about before with the examples of Forster and Van Dijk, he's not getting into that World Cup side. Or if he does, he's not going to be playing. I mean, this is the stupidest thing ever. His own agent on Twitter said it's stupid to persist without a deal and the last the last 6 months of a contract going into a World Cup. It makes no sense. Neither does his haircut.
Maybe Roy Hodgson coaches both England and Greece.
Roy is multi-dimensional.
He's willing to pick players who don't play.
Let's talk about Pookie, because obviously we've been not afraid to be very critical of him in the past. What'd you make of his performance today? I thought there were a lot of positive signs for me. Dr. J, you picked this up. I mean, he scored the goal. Granted, the keeper got a hand on it and made an absolute mess of it. But nonetheless, this is what I want to see. I don't want to see any more of the walking the ball into the net. Have a dig, and he did it, and it came good. I'm just hopeful that this can instill some confidence, instill some belonging, some comfort. He hears his name being sung from the crowd. This is good stuff.
I want. Can I give you my impression in stages? My impression in stages for Teemu ended up being like this. He came on the field. He was not Teemu Pukki. He was timid Pukki. And then
nice
wordplay. Something you like that? Something flicked. Something switched with him. And there was a play about the 68th minute or so that came down in front of Darnell, and he kind of got caught.
Oh,
and
Darnell
Teemu tracked all the way back.
You're one naming him. Basis. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So he comes back and covers on Fisher, wins the ball, takes it up, and all of a sudden it seemed like that lifted his head, and from there, he kind of you say he got stuck in, but there was a couple times before that play, the ball would be up in the air. You playing the Pookie song?
He went pook. He pooked all over.
He did.
He was the poke monster.
Yeah. After that, there was a play just before that. There was a ball up at the other end, and there was a ball's in the air, and the keeper went to get it, and he was probably 3 steps away and kind of shied from going in to go get the ball. He kind of like hesitated, and I was just screaming at television, going, "Jesus Christ, would you please fucking give me some effort?" And then all of a sudden, went down the other end. Wins the ball, gets into a tackle, wins the ball, brings it back out, and then from that on, he was willing to go in. There was a chance just before that where he did get mixed up in the box, and he was a little unlucky. And then he ripped the ball and he got lucky and he scored. But you got to shoot to score. I'm
exactly.
with you. Walking in ain't cutting it, and you have no idea if that guy's gonna blow it or not blow it. But I mean, listen,
test the keeper
here. Can I say one more thing? Here's the part that kills me. And
you can say anything you want.
Please, Celtic TV, give me an Android app so I could watch it from my bed. I don't have to get up and turn my computer on. But what I know. But what kills me is I got up this morning. I put on Fox Soccer, and it was the Sky feed.
Yeah.
And there was a play at the very beginning of the game some 18-year-old kid or 19-year-old kid from Hibbs took a shot and it was wide of Forster's goal. And he said, wow, he really, really hit that one hard. Oh, he's one for the future, blah, blah, blah. And then the same guy on Pookie's goal, when he absolutely fucking ripped it too, by the way.
Yeah.
Did the keeper get both hands on it? Yes. Is there a time, that you get both hands on it, but he just hit it harder than you can?
He's got
you keep
paper
it out?
wrists,
Yeah.
mate. Paper wrists.
It's possible, but let me tell you, he got zero of the same love. Oh, he made a total mess of that. Oh, come on, really? Did he really step on his dick with golf shoes on? Was it that bad?
He got Pookie with it.
I don't know.
He got Pookie with it.
He did. He got Pookie with it.
We love a little Pookie. And then, how about the, listen, he had an absolute spectacular, a thing of beauty, an artistic dive for the penalty. It was just a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Well, you got to be there. So, you got to be in the box. You're bitching and moaning that he's out on the wing, and he was.
You got to hit the ground if you want to get the penalty.
You got to be in the box to get the penalty. But Graham, remember when he scored the goal, he took the ball from inside the width of the 18.
True. Very
and
true.
And to all credit to him, for as much as we're bitching about we need someone in the box to be able to do these things, both of those goals came because he started somewhere in the middle of the pitch.
Absolutely, I love a bit of Pookster.
I don't listen. He's the only thing I want to rail on him today is that fucking mop haircut. That's got to go.
He's got to go. I agree.
But after that, he
Grow
was
a beard
the beneficiary of Commons coming in. Brown going back to his natural bulldog, I'm going to play defensive midfielder and try and help out in the middle. And then the field opening up because Fisher can get down the right side. And that's the reason why there was room. If it was Pookie with Baton there today, we'd have been up in arms because nothing would have happened on the right side, and it would have just been a narrow fucking U.S. Highway 1.
No question about it. The adjustments that Neil Lennon made, although at first were confusing, they definitely worked. They clicked. Fair play to him. He made the adjustments, and we saw the difference in the side a bit in the first half, a bit lethargic, a bit one-dimensional, and at times just sort of clueless. We couldn't even connect these 5-yard passes, and you can look at the pitch and all that, but in the second half, that freedom and that open space really, we used it to our advantage, and it was dynamic. Much of the time, I thought there were several other opportunities for us to score. In addition, Joe Ledley's another one that Neil Lennon has mentioned. He's much more positive about signing an extension. And, with the uncertainty of Cardiff's future, I think, we all sort of assumed that was going to be where he'd wind up. He'd go back to Cardiff in this January window if he was going to go. And, obviously there were rumblings of Crystal Palace being in for him, but neither one of those teams are assured of staying in the Premiership. And in that situation, in that type of scenario, does Joe Ledley want to go to a team that's likely or possibly, very possibly going to be in the Championship next season when he can stay at Celtic and fight on for a Champions League opportunity? I
can't answer that, but I would say if it were me, I'd say no.
I think that's that.
If it were my kid, I'd tell him no.
Absolutely.
That's a weird thing. Like for us, of course we know what the answer would be, but for him, not saying that he's a scumbag, but I'm sure money would play a bit of a factor into that too.
Well, I don't think we're going to call him a scumbag for wanting more money. It's Sally Struthers, bitch. Who you want to make more money? Sure, we all do. But there's a lot of extemporaneous issues. His family is settled in Glasgow. He does selfies at Nando's. By the minute. I think it's a type of situation where he's comfortable with the side. He's comfortable with the manager. His role in this team. I think he appreciates the supporters, and there's a lot more to it than just, do I want to further my career, make more money? If Cardiff were, say, competing, knocking on the top 10 and pushing on, and there was some stability, especially from an ownership standpoint, I think that, it would be a much more easy decision for him. Whereas we're probably paying him a lot of money anyway. It's the situation where, Hooper takes a bump of $10K a week, but he's playing for Norwich, and if Norwich continues to stay up, and Gary Hooper's played quite well. Happy birthday, by the way, to Gary Hooper. If he continues to play well for Norwich, long term this could be a positive thing for him. But I'm not so sure that Joe Ledley quite has the plaudits that Gary Hooper did, at this time last season where, it was rumored that Hooper was going straight down into the EPL. I'm not so sure that Ledley has that same level of appreciation from a club, say, out with Cardiff.
Yeah, I'll add to you. I mean, you said one thing that's totally true. Maybe we need to start, if Ledley stays, maybe we need to start the Vincent Tam CSC. But in addition to that, I would also say not just that, but like I said before, Ledley came here on a free. He left his hometown club for free.
Yeah,
and that I mean, I listen. It's hard for a leopard to change its spots.
Yep. If you can't beat him, join him. That's what I say.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, if he left his hometown club for free, I mean, Celtic's not his hometown club, and he may love Nando's, and he may love. And I don't get the whole Nando's KFC thing over there, but anyway. I don't understand. I don't understand what would make someone say, "Oh, well, he's totally a Celtic." Dude, he played as a youth at Cardiff. I mean, if he's willing to leave that team and that owner before Tam got there, and what makes you think that all of a sudden now he's bleeding green as compared to bleeding blue?
Ain't where you from; it's where you at. And with that being said, the context there is, where do you go from here? I mean, is Cardiff, in his mind, going to be a step up? And that is in serious question. I mean, they sacked Malky, and now you got Ole Gunnar, cannon fodder or whatever. Whatever. Who, in my opinion, is I would easily think that he's going to be a top flight manager. I mean, just given, there's so much that has been talked about. I mean, coming from Alex Ferguson himself, talking about, how intelligent of a player that he was, just warming up. He wrote this in his book, just warming up. He'd watch the game and he'd be reading, okay, I'm going to go into the game and, I see weaknesses here from the other side, so I can slant in here. And he'd go back and tell Ferguson about it. Ferguson, would say, that's absolutely bang on. Go do it. He's an incredibly intelligent player. And I think that he understands having a vision of how he wants to play and understand and explaining to players exactly how to get into those spots. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops that. But it is a question mark. Getting back to Celtic, it is a question mark in terms of Joe Ledley's intent going forward. It's not so much of a crystal clear picture, but it does seem that Neil Lennon, in my opinion, fortunately, is much more optimistic about keeping Joe Ledley as opposed to Georgiou Samara. So 4-0 victory. We get another 3 points, another clean sheet. That's 10 on the bounce, and we're still unbeaten. Terry Butcher didn't destroy a dugout, which is, obviously, I guess, a good thing for the Hibs. And, a shout out to Irvin Walsh as well for sending out a tweet today. Basically, showing his ass. I mean, maybe one of the best writers of the past, maybe one of the best Scottish writers of the past half century, and he comes out with this garbage talking about, losing to a sectarian side. I mean, you'd think a guy that would be, that skilled with prose would understand the meaning of sectarianism, but I guess not. It's.
You know what? We were doing really good talking about football for once.
Yeah, well, you got to mix it up.
Isn't it great?
You got to mix it up.
It's great when that happens. I wouldn't even give him the fucking value of talking to him about him. But
hey, listen, choose a podcast, choose life, choose a job,
that's true.
Choose a career, choose a big fucking television, choose freedom, choose independence, choose Celtic, choose the tricolor. Get it right up.
Choose to not drink for the last 10 days because my head's been hurting since Saturday.
Choose Terry Butcher. Choose hypocrisy. Choose salt and sauce. Choose to live in Chicago.
Choose a liver transplant.
Almost.
That was tough.
Very good.
I listened back. I had to say this. I listened back to the show last week, and I'm almost slightly embarrassed.
Difficult.
Wow.
Oof. Yeah, it is tough. We did get a lot of positive feedback. I think that everybody pretty much understands the scene and the scenario and the challenges that we were up against. Most notably, the alcohol being, let's be honest, the only one. The scene there was absolutely phenomenal. Still just sort of get adrenaline just thinking about that environment and that scene. What a great time. This is a good segue. Rev, are you still here?
I'm still here.
Fantastic. I want to hear from both of you because a lot of thoughts that came into my head after leaving there, and especially the Americans. There's so many Americans that were there last week, which is so great to see. I mean, we're building momentum in terms of growing Celtic, the awareness over here, but also the participation of Americans. We saw Chris, who, in my opinion, I mean, I think that Chris has a lot of fans now. Listen, let's be honest. Let's paint the picture, okay? Dr. J, you were there. Sean, okay, let's just, when we're not going to pick on him, obviously the tale has been told over Twitter, but Sean Brennan, I was an absolute tank last week, and he has shown the tank. We went out to dinner with him and his lovely wife. God bless her for putting up with us. After a full day of drinking and podcasting and Celtic Saturday night, and we were absolutely just out of control. And she has to sit in between you and Chris. Now, paint the picture. Chris has a beard that's down to his nipples. He's got the southern drawl that he sounds like he's Waylon Jennings. I mean, it's just absolutely no more endearing of a picture can you have with Chris, but it was just like what a scene, and to come out of it, I mean, she absolutely loved Chris. She she was such a great sport, having to deal with us and put up with us, and Sean as well. I mean, he must have been dealing with the hangover from all get out. But one thing that I was left with, and you see this from time to time. I saw it midweek in a sporting event. It's becoming more and more common where when you're watching just a random sporting event, like the Toronto Raptors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, you'll see somebody in the crowd with a Celtic jersey on. There was a New Orleans Saints game, a couple months ago, and they cut to the crowd, and there's just guys in Saints jerseys or whatever, and there's some guy in the middle with the hoops, with the tenants on the middle, and it's like this is like something that in America. Especially, I mean, obviously this is what we're exposed to, but it doesn't matter what sporting event you're going to, you wear the hoops. Like we're going to the Nats game tonight. Shit, I got to get my Celtic jersey on. And it's like, what the hell are you going to wear a Celtic jersey for? But you do see that so consistently.
Well, if you're walking to the Atlanta airport when I'm there, I usually have it on.
Exactly. But okay, so let me ask you, and I want to build the conversation from here. Why do you do that?
Why?
And I'll give you my reason for why I do it, because I do the same.
I do it because for me it's an identification. I think of the jersey as a flag, and if I'm going to wave any flag, it's going to be that one. And that's just plainly the reason why I want people to know exactly where it is. I go off on rants on Twitter and people posting things about EPL teams or about other teams, and I've kind of stopped after you had your buddy from Crossing Broad on the other day, and not hating people because they like certain teams, but I really don't. I really do that only because people ask me about it, and when people ask me about it, I tell them why, and it's really tough. And I'll tell you what, you talked about Chris. To Chris's, we'll say to the love of Chris. We'll talk to the love of Chris for a second here. It was funny because 3 or 4 times over the course of the weekend when we were somewhere and we had tops on and we were in the airport in Philadelphia on the way home, you go, well, what were you doing here? And he would try to explain, and people would just looked at him as if he was jerking off in the corner, like,
whoa.
I'm just saying, it's one of those things. You catch someone jerking off, you're like, what the fuck's he doing? Anyway, so, it was one of those things, and then we sit there and laugh and go, how hard is this? How hard is this to explain what the fuck we're doing here? It is so hard to explain, but to us it just seems normal.
Exactly.
And what's funny is the people in my Scottish friends are just like, "You did what?" I was on a FaceTime call the other day with a friend of mine, one of my good friends, Kevin. And Kevin's like, I saw the pictures. What the fuck are you doing in Philadelphia? We just got together. He goes, why? I said, to watch the game.
Why not?
That's brilliant. Yeah, no. He just was curious as to why. He's like, why? And it's just because we just decided to get together, and I made it out of my way, and I was going to go work, and I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go get drunk in Philadelphia for the weekend. And
seems reasonable.
And it was great. I mean, and plus, don't forget. I mean, it gets the chance to to say hi and put names and faces together with Twitter handles and to make the connection. There are comments this weekend that were made in person that you go, oh, that's really funny. And then all of a sudden, once you know the person and then a comment comes back on Twitter, it's 10 times funnier.
It's so true because you can see the person and the context and the color that they give it. Yeah, absolutely. I think you explained it exceptionally well. I mean, that speaks to a lot of my personal reasons for doing that as well. Rev, how about you? I mean, do you, when you're traveling or, if you're going to be out in a public place, I mean, forget about sporting events or whatever, but, do you have that same sort of mindset? I think that it just sort of resonates with especially American and, of course, expat Celtic supporters that are over here, that we just wear the hoops everywhere.
Pretty much. I mean, if you want to say it's kind of like, just letting your flag fly kind of thing. And, it's, you hope maybe, you're not trying to show off, exactly, but you're just trying to put it out there, and maybe you'll get someone to reciprocate. You get another Celtic fan that identifies, and you're like, oh, look at you over there, or someone who, recently, with success against like Barcelona and stuff, you get people like, oh, I know who they are now,
right.
And
there's Americans here, who support this club. Let me check it out.
Right.
We were in Napa the weekend that Celtic clinched the league last year.
Well, aren't you special?
And and anyway, so I knew we were going to win. I packed the hoops with me, and I'm walking through the airport in San Francisco later that morning, and I got guys in Scottish accents going, holy shit, the fucking kit here in the middle of San Francisco. And I'm like, hell yeah. He goes, what are you doing wearing the hoops? It was just the funniest shit ever. It's like, yeah, they had no idea. Exactly. And I'm just high-fiving the guys that go by. It was like, it happened. My wife looked at me like, what the fuck? You can't go anywhere.
What is going on?
Yeah, like 4 times walking to the airport in 30 minutes, people were just like, Monda hoops! I'm across the fucking, it was just crazy.
Exactly. I agree completely. And that's so much, that's a great reference. It is like waving a flag, because anytime, to set the example, not every time, but many, many times. The chances are better than average of walking through an airport terminal and having somebody just randomly, sitting at a gate or whatever, and it doesn't even matter. Like people could be on their computer, and how the scene in the airports are. Everybody's just sort of like tense and nervous. About to get on the plane, they're looking at the computer, they're, fucking with their iPod or whatever, and all of a sudden they see somebody in the hoops, and I have that response as well, and I think that any Celtics supporter does. When you see somebody wearing the hoops, like, what the hoops? And you don't even care who the hell is around, it's like, and you have that connection, it's like, it's like, you're waving the flag, and, you're doing a couple of different things. You're representing the club, and, you're it's sort of like a homing beacon, like where, even if a fellow Celtics supporter doesn't have the hoops on, like, big man, talk about the game or whatever, and it's always such a great feeling when you see somebody wearing the hoops. I have that reaction when I see somebody sitting in the crowd. We've sent around tweets a lot of times if you're watching a live sporting event, and you hit pause and you take a picture, and it's like, we're everywhere. It's just such a great feeling to see it, and you see that more and more. It's such a great sort of aspect with this club specifically. You don't see that with people wearing a Barcelona top, or a Chelsea top, or a Dortmund top. I don't think Dortmund fans would see somebody on television. Oh, did you see the guy with the Dortmund top? Who gives a shit?
That's because Lewandowski would punch you in the face.
Seems reasonable.
I think one of the best spotting of a Celtic jersey was the old SodaStream commercials, when they have it set up like they're doing a demo inside of a mall, and there's like 4 little girls
it's like
in like the 2008 40th anniversary jersey.
Right.
Like I pause and I'm like, get the hell out of here.
We are everywhere. But I think it's something that's unique to America because, obviously, and we've talked about this in terms of the dynamics of the American mentality, but we have so many different sports. We have 4 different leagues where, you're going to have just a massive turnout, and soccer, it's sort of it's a niche type of sport. Still, it's a niche type of drawing, but when you see somebody else, who appreciates the game and is knowledgeable about the game, and especially, if they're wearing a Celtic top, it's just like, there we go. You just love seeing that, and it's just such a rush. So I just thought that was
one of my favorite ones. I was watching. I don't know if you guys watch this or not. We have a station, a channel here. If you guys aren't familiar. It's called the
Jackson Pilot Sports.
Esquire Network. And, it's Brewdogs, and it's the guys from Scotland, Brewdogs, they're on there.
Yeah, phenomenal.
But there's a show called The Getaway, and there was an episode in London. And I tweet out the picture. The guy who is
a Celtic supporter running from Chelsea supporters. That's The Getaway.
Anyway, so if you go check my Twitter timeline, it's there. I'll go find the tweet out again. It's hilarious because the one guy they interviewed 4 or 5 times as the segue into the rest of the episode, of all things in London, is wearing a "Over and Over We Will Follow You" T-shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm just laughing, going, okay, people think, it's soccer, it's no big deal. It's like, you don't understand how fucking ironic that is, that this guy about London is wearing it over. It's just over and over with a Celtic crest on it. I'm just laughing. My poor wife looks at me and she goes, "What the fuck are you laughing at?" I said, "You get that?" She's like, "No." Nah. I'm like, "Okay, maybe it's just me." And then I just had to tweet out. I had to take a picture and send it out. It was absolutely hilarious. But I mean, that's I guess the stuff that we see here in the U.S. But
yeah,
weird.
Yeah, great stuff. Great takeaways from last weekend. Great to see you and the flesh, and hopefully we can get together again. In the same type of format real soon, and drink some fantastic wine because you don't drink cheap shit. So being around you,
no, in fact, yeah, we're going to Willamette Valley. We're going to drink some Pinot this weekend for my wife's birthday. Wow, we're staying at a friend's vineyard. So
happy birthday, Mrs. Exactly. Baldeep, and
that's exactly right. So listen, one more thing before I let you go because I got to run and take care of her for a second.
Lovely.
Yes,
we'll read into that as we will.
Yes, and so this weekend. Celtic FC Florida is playing a tournament. The U13 team is playing against my son's team.
Very cool. Very cool.
Unfortunately, he's not there. He's taking his SATs this weekend as a 7th grader, so he can't be there. But they apparently Celtic FC they pulled 2 of their teams together to make an all-star team to come up for this tournament. And minus 2 players that are starters for our club, they drew 0-0 on Saturday and they played the championship 2:00. So I'm hoping for. We win versus this Celtic FC team. So,
well, all the best.
Come on, Coast FA.
Coast FA, all the best to them. Good luck,
yes.
And hopefully they pull through a result, and we see more of these Celtic development sides take root here in the United States, and further the Celtic name with our youth, and shield them away from the evils and the just general shite of English football, and teach them the virtues of what is all holy and good. See, there's
you say holy, and you know what's funny? You say holy. Yeah. You say holy. I don't want to say sectarian. You say holy. About a year and a half ago, I'm walking to the airport, and you just reminded me of this. I'm walking to the airport, and I always get this hand on my shoulder, and I hear this Irish accent behind me. Is "good lad," and I turn around, it's a priest, and I had hoops on in the airport, and I'm like, "Thank you, Father," and he goes, "Oh, God bless you." And I walked away, and I was like walking on air the rest of the way through a terminal in Atlanta. But it was like, "Oh, good lad." I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool." But I mean, that kind of stuff. Like, I guarantee you, a priest is not going to come up to you and go, "Good lad," if you're wearing a Chelsea shirt.
No, that ain't gonna happen.
Have you been? He may say, "He may ask you, have you been to confession?"
No,
but he's not going to say, "Good lad."
He ain't even going to listen. He's not going to waste his time asking a Chelsea supporter if they went to confession. Let's be honest.
Anyway, all right, have fun. Hey, Yampy, I wish I was here to talk to you.
I'm sure the feeling's mutual.
All right. Thanks, boys.
Dr. J, thanks for calling in. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
Hell.
All right.
Hey, bye.
I just cut him off.
Good job.
All right, we'll be welcoming Yampy here shortly, I'm sure. But good point.
This just reminded me from last week when there's a picture floating around somewhere, I guess, when right after you guys went around the corner to like another bar or get something to eat or whatever, and they started handing out awards. And since, Dr. J was there, I, in his place accepted the Weest Flag Award for Bon Deep.
Yeah, I think this was Dr. J's first foray into these huge Celtic gatherings here in the States. He needs to step up his game with the flags. If you see the Bronx Boys flag. I mean, that could cover up a building.
It's a bit overcompensating, I think.
Steady, Rev. Steady. We're trying to endear ourselves. Hey, you also met up with some of the folks from the Kearney CSC as well. We've obviously talked about them in the past and an unfortunate circumstance at that particular club. You want to sort of give us an update there?
Just, explain the situation and, an answer was given to me and everything's all good. And, I have the okay to, obviously go back whenever I'm around and in town.
Lovely.
And I got, the advice from about a half a dozen other CSCs that I didn't know that, the situation really got out there in the ether.
Well, this is kind of on the internet.
People, oh, you're coming up here? Come on up.
This is kind of on the internet. Anybody can listen. This isn't just our little private Skype chat or whatever the hell, what do they call it? Snapchat? I don't know anything about Snapchat. Just yet. I probably don't want to.
I guess, I kind of forget that, this is out there a bit more. But, I mean, everything's all good. And, thanks to everyone else, that gave me the invite to stop by. And believe me, I wish I could do a tour of, North American CSCs.
You're kind of a big deal, Rev.
I guess so.
I mean, look, you're the Rev. With that, I don't know what the deal is with your hair, dude, but the mohawk. I mean, is that here to stay?
For now.
I mean, I got this beard thing going. It's look, it's a blanket for my face. Okay. I mean, listen. To paint the picture, there's probably some background noise here right now, and if there is, you have to forgive me, but it's my furnace. And if I turn my furnace off for more than a minute or two, it becomes absolutely freezing because at the moment it's 18 degrees Fahrenheit, and I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's beyond Baltic. It's like frozen solid. So with that being said, I need all of the protection on my skinny little face that I can get, and hair is a great option. And it's nature's way of keeping me warm. And I look at my razor now and I'm like, that's just ungrateful. So it's a temporary thing. I'm until it warms up, and then then I'll have like a sweaty little red skinny face. But then I'll shave it off. But it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of rugged. I didn't think I could grow a beard like this, to be honest. I thought it was going to look worse than Shane Victorino. I knew you'd get that. Little Red Sox dig on ya. Where the hell?
Or actually, that kind of brings you back to talking about wearing hoops and stuff in public. Another thing is just distance. I think because it's so far removed. You go around Jersey, wearing a Giants jersey, a Yankees jersey. Unless it was just a big game the day before. And you get another super fan to be like, yeah, go team, whatever. That's the extent of it. Maybe if you were to go to California and you wear, a Phillies jersey, you might get someone who moved out there giving you some respect. But other than that,
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say distance might be a factor in wearing the stuff. To get people to, for lack of a better word, just, to notice you. Like I'm saying, like...
Rev, I was just talking about a beard.
Well, I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing the discussion back a little bit. Going back to Glasgow, I'm sure it's really no big deal. I mean, some people give you a problem for wearing a jersey out in public, I'm sure, but you know what I mean. Like, you're in ground zero. Like, there's nothing special about it. Am I wrong? You think otherwise?
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Now joining us from South Jersey, a shot. No, I'm kidding, Rev. I love you to pieces, and I mean it.
I hate you.
He hates me. Now joining us is Yampy, absolute crowd favorite last week. I mean, just really brings down the house, and did a good deed by not staying in Philadelphia for 2 nights in a row to absolutely destroy the place. But great seeing him last week. Welcome to the show, Yampy.
What's up, G? What's up, Rev?
There he is.
What's going on, fellas?
Did you have a chance to listen back to the debauchery that was the show last week? I got to get your thoughts on this. We talked to Dr. J a little bit, and I mean, some of the stuff was absolutely, you couldn't help but cringe. I mean, I sang a country western song live on the radio, and I sound like a timing belt.
I don't generally listen because I hate the sound of my voice, so I don't normally listen back. But it's kind of like locked in my head, everything that went on last week.
That makes one of us.
So I don't really need to listen back to last week because it's all still stuck in my head. Yeah, I mean, dude, that was a lot of fun, man. Good Lord. Kinky boots.
I think we scared a lot of the locals. A lot of them.
Yeah, but I think we brought some of the locals in.
Maybe.
Listen, Rev, for all the stick that you give Philadelphia, you think you're going to scare off any people in Philadelphia with kinky boots? Really?
Not at all, man.
Let's be honest.
Go ahead, Rev.
No, the average person, sure, but people who probably came out from, the suburbs on a Saturday night to get, some dinner down in Old City, and they walk in and see us.
Rev. That's Old City. Old City is, it's a freak show. Yamp, you know this.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little more, a little bougie.
Well, look, you can be a bougie freak show. Look at me. Anyway, Scott.
I think it was a nice. I mean, not for nothing. It really kind of like right at the end of the show. I mean, there was a lot of people in there. The place was jumping,
Packed.
But yeah, and I thought there was a nice cross section of people. I mean, I'm sure Cloud made a killing just from all the shit that Doc and Sean drank.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they are looking forward to the next time Celtic comes and invades our good city. But nonetheless, Yampy, you have a chance to see the show today. Were you up at the Plow again this morning?
Nah, I didn't make it up, Eric.
Okay.
Of course, I'm up like first thing in the morning, but everybody else in my house kind of like, it's the downside of like, when you got a wife who sleeps late and two kids that just, they want to be up all night and then the next morning they don't want to get the hell up. So
seems reasonable.
I'm kind of at the mercy of them sometimes. I mean, what are you going to do?
What'd you make of the game today? I mean, obviously with the starting 11 announced, and you see Samuras's name on there, and it's like, what the hell is going on? I mean, especially with a lacking of a creative element in that middle of the park, except for perhaps Baton, who I think maybe we identified with Baton formation and a partnership that maybe is not going to quite work for him just yet, if ever. We saw a lot of the key in Baton today, if you know what I mean. What did you make of the game today? I mean, Samurai starting, and we saw Pookie come on, who we've never been shy of being critical of, but I thought he had a pretty decent game. What are your takeaways from today?
I thought the first half was basically Chris Commons carrying a bunch of guys before they woke up. It's starting to get a little tedious when you have like these slow starts and everything, and it seems like the only three motivated guys are Forster, Van Dyke, and Commons.
Yeah.
Everybody else seems to like take their good old time kind of getting in gear.
And the only way that it works, as it sort of did in the first half today, is when Van Dyke and Commons have to play two different positions themselves. I mean, it's almost like with Van Dyke and Commons throughout large stretches of the first half, they were playing four different positions straight up the spine. Well,
you kind of figured, yeah. I mean, look, you had Baton out there, you had Fisher out there, and it wasn't the greatest first half. And, you're playing a Terry Butcher team, too, that usually is motivated to play against Celtics. So it's not like you're going to, have a walk in the park. You're going to have to work a little bit. I thought the first half was, nothing to write home about. Again, Commons, standout, probably league player of the year, without a doubt. With the 21 goals now on the season.
Fantastic.
So he's the runaway player in Scotland for me for player of the year. But second half, I mean, Baton came off. Sammy, God, he just, I knew Sammy was going to play because, what's his name, Stokesy was suspended.
Yeah, but we still have, we have Balde, we have Pookie. I mean, these are players that are confirmed on the books, are part of our future. Sammy is more than questionable for our future. We should sell him now.
Yeah, but again, you also have to have a motivated buyer too, and everybody's just figuring at this point, like they're not going to dump him for nothing. And
I think we should.
Yeah, maybe they should. It's a shame because I said on Twitter today, I think we've come pretty much full circle with Sammy at this point. We saw him in the beginning when he first came to Celtic, and people really got on him. And then his game really took off, and then people obviously fell more in love with him. And now, he kind of seems like to me, he hasn't really been very highly motivated since the Carrigandy game at home.
Well, now he has a Liza Minnelli haircut, and, who knows what the hell, we're going to get out of him. Listen, we've talked about this in the past. I think that Sammy is a victim of the fact that we don't have an out-and-out clinical striker. He doesn't have the freedom to move wide left where he is best utilized. So having to force him into that central role, and then, in addition, not bringing in that clinical striker, as it appears clear we are not going to do. If we keep him in here and we persist with playing him, we're going to have to persist in playing him out of position, in a position where he's not going to be successful, he's not going to be happy, he's not going to be motivated. It doesn't make any sense to keep him around.
Well, that's why he's just, in lieu of whatever happens to Stokesy, he's probably going to pretty much be an off-the-bench guy. Sammy's going to be an off-the-bench guy at this point, and that's just, I don't think they're going to unload him. It's really looking like this transfer window is going to be much ado about nothing.
Yeah,
it really does, and it's extremely disappointing because I had high hopes that the the board would do something. And I'm the biggest pessimist in the whole wide world, but it really, after all the other nonsense that's going on between the living wage and the stuff where they're banning people who had no right to be banned in the first place and all that other bullshit, I figured that the board would put out an olive branch a little bit to the support and say, you know what, the manager has said it before that he wants them to push the boat out and get a fucking guy who can score in here and take some of that burden off Commons. And to read all this nonsense now about Lee Griffiths and everything else, it's just kind of.
You mean Thumb Boguson?
Was this?
You mean Thumb Boguson?
Thumb Boguson, yes.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Yampy, sit tight. But I think that I'm glad that you raised this, and I think that many of Neil Lennon's comments this week were revealing. We've seen this, especially over the summer, and then it continues now into January. I think that several of the points that he made gave us a glimpse into the dynamic that he's having to deal with. And specifically what I'm talking about is, first off, he did mention that we were, and this is the worn out tale of, we tried really hard, but we just couldn't have it come through. Neil Lennon did mention that we were in pursuit of a top-notch, a finishing type striker over the past several weeks, and then all of a sudden went cold. I have a very good source who's been correct on several different issues in the past that I've come out with, and I've absolutely full confidence that the source is correct with this as well, that the player that we were after was Aaron Johansson from AZ, which is incredibly disappointing for me if it is indeed true, especially as an American, who's playing for the U.S. national team going into the World Cup. I mean, how amazing would that be? I heard that we had an offer tabled for $4.5 million to bring him in, and he scored a goal in the Dutch Cup the past, I guess it was last weekend, and his agent was set to fly to Glasgow, and at the last second, AZ said they're not selling him. So that's incredibly disappointing. Again, if it is indeed true, that would have been extremely exciting, and if we can do something to sort of rekindle that interest, it would be extraordinary. But it does, like you said, point to the fact that we're not going to bring in that player, that striker. And Neil Lennon alluded to the fact that we really can't expect anything from this transfer window. That's incredibly disappointing. It's incredibly disappointing, especially in light of the comments that he made at the beginning of the window, which was we are looking to bring three or four players in, especially that striker, since we've been so toothless in the final third, to not just not be able to bring in that sort of player, but only essentially bring in one player. If you want to count the fridge, then maybe two. For $100,000 from the Iceland League, okay, fine. We brought in two players, but we didn't address the issue of center half. We need cover at center half. We didn't address the issue of keeper. There's a high likelihood, better than average likelihood, that Fraser Forster is away in the summer. So we're going to be, if we don't act now, we're going to be left in the predicament going into Champions League qualifiers, looking for an out-and-out striker still, looking for some cover at center half, and then, God forbid, Virgil van Dijk goes early on in the transfer window. This is very concerning for us, and it's a very concerning position for this board to leave us in going into the summer, going into that summer transfer window. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to be done on the front end, and we just don't do all that well with that. So this is the thing that's especially frustrating and disappointing for me. And then, we see Tony Watt, who's just absolutely all of a sudden, found his form, found his motivation, is just running riot now in the Belgian league. And good for him. I'm so pleased, that he's found this motivation, that he's found his form, that he's found a place. He's undroppable at this point. He scores a brace every time he plays now. And he seems to be, much more happy, his head held high. And I hold out hopes that there might be some sort of chance that he could come back. I'm not overly optimistic about it, considering some of the events that apparently have taken place between himself and Neil Lennon, and some behind the scenes sort of things. But if he is going to continue on with this sort of form, and we are lacking that type of player, it's impossible for us to ignore that, especially if we're not going to invest some money and bring in a player who can do just that. And then, compounding it again and again, we send Atajic out on loan to the Cadbury Cream Egg Factory.
Right. Jesus. This club has more loans than like the Royal Bank of Scotland right now. Everybody's out on fucking loan somewhere, every corner of the earth. And right now, there's a lot of cracks in the dam right now. They're starting to form, and nobody's really fucking attending to him at this point. We might not get to hear about the whole plan and everything that the club has, but it sure doesn't look like, a whole bunch of anything's being done. You talked about the goalkeeper, talked about, necessary players for the midfield. What are we talking about? Is Joe Ledley going to come back? Is he not going to come back? Is Stefan Johansson the guy that's going to replace Ledley? What was that saying? It's getting late early, and that's kind of where Celtic is right now. There's a lot of shit that's coming to the fore right now. You're going to lose Sammy one way or another. If Van Dijk goes, then the fucking whole wall is going to collapse.
We're on the balls of our ass at that point.
He's a man among fucking boys, and that's just, he really is right now. I was praying today that he was going to take that free kick and not Charlie Mulgrew, and when that was a thing of beauty. That shows you the amount of class that Virgil van Dijk has. That he can. That was such a gorgeous right foot.
Yep.
A beautiful goal. That's golazo goal. And, look, I think that the last time Charlie Mulgrew scored was like 3 years ago on that header against the Huns, or 2 years ago.
I think it was more recently, but yeah.
Was it? I don't know. I just didn't want him taking that kick. And it's like...
I get that.
You see how much... We need guys that can help Commons carry this team a little bit. And Van Dijk's one of them, but you don't know how long you got him. So where the fuck are these other guys going to come from?
All right, there's a lion's mouth. Let's jump into it. Lee Griffiths is one of the names that has come up as apparently one of our targets, and it just reeks of a desperation buy. At the end of the window, well, we got to get somebody. So, oh yeah, he's over there. It's 1:45 a.m. and you haven't hooked up yet, and you're in the the darkest bar in the city trying to find anybody.
Last call polls. You're stuck with the 2-ton love goddess.
Exactly, and if reputation holds, Lee Griffiths is familiar with that type of situation, but. For me, I'd rather us just save the $2 million or $1 million or whatever we're going to pay for Lee Griffiths, and spend it, pool it together with more money that we can spend in the summer to bring in a striker with quality instead of stockpiling project players or maybes.
I don't know. You hear about all these names. It's like, what was the other one? Like the guy from Peterborough. It's a Lee Tomlin, I think his name is, or
he's
Tomlin. I forget. It just. It reeks of a little bit of desperation. Lee Griffiths does nada for me. He's got more baggage than the Pope has crucifixes, and
thumping inside's his strong.
Thumping inside. He's just. He's got the Lucasade theft thing. He had the racist thing on Twitter.
Yes.
Is this a guy you want wearing Celtic colors? Seriously?
Harry Redknapp would not say, "Oh, he's a lovely lad. I've had him over anytime. Poison mash." Harry Redknapp talking about Lee Griffiths wouldn't even roll down his window. Rev, get in here. You got something?
No, I just real quick gotta head back to bed and take my medicine, if you know what I mean.
Ready?
No, I just want to say, hopefully by the time next week's episode we get together and, we can actually have some positive news on some, transfers, talking about Lee Griffiths and stuff. Like these guys, yeah, like you said, these are last minute, plug in the hole, type, thing that it's more of a headache than I think they'll be worth. I don't mind getting guys from, lower division leagues if it's someone that we're going to keep and, make a bit of a project out of them. And, that's fine. Get them in now. But, getting guys that probably don't really have much of a future and do belong in, League One or whatever, Peterborough, I don't see why.
League One?
League Un.
League One?
No, I don't know.
Do you want Lee Griffiths, Rev?
What's that?
Do you want Lee Griffiths?
Oh, fuck no. Absolutely not. Like, you guys were just saying, like, he, off the pitch trouble, if we're going to say, Celtic shirts don't shrink to fit inferior players, and he just doesn't rub me as a Celtic player in that way. There's, loads of players I think we could go after, guys who would, chomp at the bits to play at a club like Celtic, especially now when we're about to qualify for, Champions League again in the summer and go through that. I don't know why they don't get, some kids that are hungry, and just, shit like this. So, going back, I think Sammy's still going to be here come next Saturday.
I think you're right.
Unfortunately, I think Ledley will probably still be here, and hopefully we get a new striker. That's it.
Rev, go take your medicine and, feel better. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. All right. Rev is off to take his medicine. Dr. J had to go deal with his wife. Rev's talking about plugging some holes. I don't know what the hell happened to the show, but
everybody kind of fell apart after last week.
Yeah, exactly. Thumb say the devil's dead. The devil's dead. The devil's dead. Thumb say. Oh, I'm sorry.
Was that number right? $4.5 million for Aaron Johansson?
It was what was told to me by somebody who has had good information in the past. I'll just leave it at that.
See, but that's bothersome to me because, when they talked about the whole thing with Boguson and stuff, they were talking about, that they made a better second offer to him at the prior transfer deadline. And the number that was being bounced around was $4.5 million. And that seems to be the club's limit.
Yeah.
That they're not going to spend 1 cent more over $4.5 million, no matter what. And maybe that's just AZ Alkmaar's way of trying to get, at least $5 million, or what they feel is a little bigger number to get Celtic and Lawwell to come off that $4.5 million.
Well, and I think that, another thing that Neil Lennon said this week, I mean, obviously I was very analytical of Neil Lennon's words this past week, and rightfully so. I mean, we're trying to read the tea leaves here about what is going to happen. Another thing that Neil Lennon talked about was the fact that, his remit is getting results immediately, because he can't plan for 5 years down the line or 3 years down the line or 2 or, 1. He's on one of these rolling contracts. He doesn't have the time. He needs results now in order to keep his place. And there's no reconciliation between the board and their 5-year plans and so on and so forth with a manager that has to get results right this second. To your point, I think that we have a situation here where there is a ceiling, a magic number of, 4.5 or 4 million or whatever it is. Who knows the legitimacy of any of this, but, it does have all of the inklings of, we have a limit and we can't go past that. Even if it's for $500,000 more than, whatever that limit is, we can't exceed it, but we can stockpile as many of the players that fall under that number as we want. You don't get the logic. I mean, you talk about Pookie, Balde, Bo Richter, right there. That's close to $7 million that we spent on 3 players stockpiling when we could have had Finn Boguson for that, and then another and Johnny Russell. We could have Finn Boguson and Johnny Russell for the same amount of money that we wasted on. Hopefully Pookie comes good, but come on, work with me here. Finn Boguson, Pookie.
Pookie's goal today, as pretty as it was, not for nothing, the goalkeeper kind of made a bit of a hash of that too. Is that Ben Williams in goal for Hibs? He didn't. If Pookie's trying to score that goal on Fraser Foster, that doesn't happen.
You're a hater. You're a hater.
I'm a realist, dude. I keep it real. and it's that simple. Pookie had a nice game today. Was it any big shake? I don't know. I thought it was all right. I didn't think he was anything spectacular. Again, is Pookie the answer? I mean, you're right. If they had done a one-off and just said, one time, we're going to just fucking exceed this budget limit one time, $4.5 million, go over it once, and fucking get a player, a proven player.
Yep.
Not taking fucking crapshoots at the Johnny Russells and Lee Griffiths. And I'm a big Johnny Russell guy. He had 5 goals already for Derby this year and everything. Seems to get hurt a lot still. But, I mean, you can't keep putting Band-Aids on the cracks, or eventually you're going to run into an Art Media situation when you're trying to do a fucking play-in or whatever, and you're not going to make the Champions League.
Yeah.
We can't keep having this Groundhog Day fucking moment every year where you're sitting there saying, we got to keep our fingers crossed that we could beat the fucking second-tier scrubs of fucking Europe just to qualify for the Champions League and then get pumped.
Yeah, you're right.
You eventually have to fucking spend some money.
You're right.
Spend the fucking money. They can't bury you with it, Pete. They can't bury you with it, dude. You fucking won't spend it on the living wage for your fucking employees. You won't spend it to go over $4.5 million because, God forbid, we can just scratch by and keep our fingers crossed and sweat bullets that we're going to beat Shakhtar Karagandy. and fucking spend the money once, dude.
And spend it wisely. Stop with the rules. Stop with, we have to spend that much. You can buy as many 2 million pound players as you want, but we can't spend $5 million on any one player. This doesn't make any sense.
For every Van Dyke that you get, you're going to get 3 fucking Bo Richters that are just sitting there. You need a crowbar to get their fucking asses off the seats because he might goddamn get hurt. And that's 4 years and $2.8 million on a stiff like Bo Richter, who's doing nothing, just smiling while he's collecting his fucking paycheck. I mean, spend the money once, man, and go over that $4.5 million. Take a chance. Get some to put asses in the seats and get people buying, jerseys with the name on the back of a fucking player like a Finn Bogason, a Johansson, or somebody like that.
So I guess you're not interested in giving Lee Griffiths the number 7 jersey?
No, not under the pain of death. Not under the pain of death, bro. Hey, and I heard everybody talking up the plus side of it. He's 23 and this and that and yada, yada, yada. Too much baggage. You don't need it. The club doesn't need it. Yeah. He could have had Johnny Russell without all that baggage and got the same fucking results.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And, for far less. So
yeah,
we'll see. Yeah, I think, you have some people there that are very unhappy about it. Everybody's unhappy about it. There's strife. But look, we had a great time last weekend. That is what it is about. Bringing everybody together, and we'll have a good time. Listen, I'm with you. There's 5 days left in the transfer window, and right. we know this club saves it till the last possible second. And Neil Lennon, again, I'm going to analyze his comments. He did say that names and players the last couple of days of the transfer window oftentimes get thrown at you. Players that just aren't working out at particular clubs. Look what happened with Juan Mata, who I think is going to be absolutely phenomenal for Manchester United, and just didn't fit in at Chelsea. Maybe obviously to scale. We're not going to spend $40 million on a midfielder, but to scale, somebody that has some quality but isn't working out at their particular club can come north and shine for us. All we can do is hold out hope, even though it doesn't look all that promising. Another issue that came out that I want to just touch on real quick: safe standing. Has been tabled as a possibility for next season. What are your thoughts here? I mean, nothing's been confirmed. I mean, obviously this is a lot of theory that's put out, and Peter Lawwell has commented on the fact that there is a vibrant support here in Scotland. Well, no shit, Sherlock. And it is nice that he acknowledges that and wants to do something positive to try and nurture it. How confident are you that something like this can come to fruition?
I don't know, to be honest with you. It's hard to look, man. I'd love to see it happen, but I'm a proof is in the pudding kind of guy. They could talk about all kinds of stuff left and right, but until I actually see something being done, I'm kind of a skeptic.
Yeah.
And knowing the track record of the board and Peter Lawwell, it's not really good. The quote about hanging them with their own rope, with the rope thing kind of sticks in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's hard to trust somebody that has that kind of
cynicism towards their own supporters, right?
Right. And thank you for finishing that. Yes. I mean, it's a very overt kind of cynicism, and it's like, if you're going to extend an olive branch, you need to have done that yesterday, not sit there and have doors kicked in of your supporters at 7 a.m. and everything because you think that this is something that should be done when these are the people that have supported your club through thick and thin, and you're going to sit there and watch them get arrested, watch them get kicked out of Celtic Park, and you've had no small part in that.
Yeah. So
when you sit there and try to throw it out there a little bit. We're talking about it right now that there could be, safe standing. To me, it's just all noise until I actually see some proof of something.
I'm almost surprised. I mean, I thought this was going to be one of these throwaway issues to distract. I mean, we've seen it so many times. You talk about the cynicism and the hang them with their own rope, give them enough rope to hang themselves, etc. We saw at the tail end of the European campaign that was obviously an abject failure. That there was all sorts of sort of extemporaneous strife that, for me, was artificially created. It was driven with an agenda to distract away from that European failing, talking about, kicking the Green Brigade out and vilifying the Green Brigade to distract everybody from the failings of the transfer window and then the performance in Europe. We've seen that countless times, time and again. And I'm just sort of surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised over the next several days if nothing does come to fruition, that we don't see another one of these throwaway issues being projected out there to distract supporters. Like, we're going to bring in safe standing and we're going to do this and that and the other, so that people take their attention away from holding them accountable to bringing in players of quality, building for the future, spending some of this money that we seem to be stockpiling. For what? I'm not really sure.
Right. It seems like this stuff all seems to kind of pop up at very certain times.
Convenient.
It's like whenever we're trying to keep the focus off of something more important, whether it's like the transfer window or a living wage issue or, things of this nature, then it's like, oh, okay, well, hey, man, you know what? We put a bar in Celtic Park. Oh, we have Wi-Fi in Celtic Park. Oh, we're talking about safe standing now. It always seems like this is chatter with a purpose. It's kind of like the shell game. They don't want us focusing on the P. They're always trying to keep things moving around so we don't exactly focus on that P and find out see what the real deal is and bitch about the real deal instead of we're focusing on stuff like safe standing. Don't talk about it. If you're the board, don't talk about it. Just fucking do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same thing. Oh, well, we need a great striker. Don't fucking talk about it. Get one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop with the talk. Let's get moving with the do.
Well, and and just the obvious distractions. Talking about living wage at the AGM. I'm about to make a Sevco joke.
I know, yeah, because all of a sudden it's.
Let's laugh at Sevco because no living wage here.
Right. It's like, oh well, I
Pattern.
had a cute little joke that the media can run with and everything, but what good is that joke going to do people that can't feed their fucking kids around the holidays or keep their houses warm or buy Christmas gifts for people that give their left ball to make sure that he makes a fucking $50,000 more to buy more heating for his driveway?
Oh, it's patter, Scott. It's patter. I've never played in League One. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, he needs to. A little bit of humility and sincerity would be a good start.
Amen.
Stop fucking trying to play people for idiots and do something. Show us something, because you know what? You're not putting asses in the seats right now watching fucking Pookie, kind of like try real hard. We want to see something.
Results.
We want something to get excited about.
And help your manager.
Yeah, give your manager a little fucking something. So instead of constantly having to try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, he can just sit there and go with it. I mean, look, man, 9 shutouts, fantastic. Runaway winning the league, undefeated, blah, blah, blah. That's fantastic. But there was never really any doubt of that. Okay? The mark, the high water mark now has been set. There was a team, how long ago this club went to the last 16 of the Champions League. Now I don't want to spend fucking the next 15 years seeing a team try to sit there and scrape and scrimp and just try to just make the Champions League.
Well, not capitalize on our position of power, financially especially. Yeah.
Exactly. And,
status quo.
And you do a better job of articulating it than I do, but you get the point. I'm a man about actions. I'm not big on words. I've heard people tell me a lot of shit in my life that never came to fruition.
And support. I mean, listen. Neil Lennon is handcuffed by these policies, and he's not held to the same sort of parameters. Neil Lennon is. I mean, let's be honest. Neil Lennon is month to month. I mean, he's on this year-long rolling contract, but he needs results now. And they're talking about a long-term financial X, Y, and Z. Support him, because at every turn, and it becomes more and more clear as time goes on, he toes the board line. He supports them. He trots out all of their bullshit policy, and tries to project that as if it's his own. Support him back.
And it's true. And that's, look, man, I don't think I'm as harsh on Lenny as some people can be. Look, I've criticized the guy before, but I think he's done a wonderful job with the club. Is he the greatest, tactical mind in the game? Probably not. But you know what?
He's getting the job done.
Yeah, he does get the job done.
Yep.
So, everybody talks about, he'll be here for 10 in a row and da-da-da-da and this and that. When does the guy eventually say, you know what, I'm tired of trying to keep this together with Band-Aids. I can be appreciated somewhere else for more down south probably.
Well, and, the other thing is, listen, I'm as guilty or probably most guilty of this, but, we're sort of talking about the second half of the season as if it's a throwaway. We've already won the league. That much is clear, but nobody's going to hand us the Scottish Cup. And if he falls short, we have a game against Aberdeen in 2 weeks' time, and Aberdeen isn't just coming down to Celtic Park to lay down. He needs to get a result in that game, and he needs help.
Yeah.
And there's going to be teams after that are looking at Celtic as a scout, and he had struggled in these cup ties. So, it's definitely going to have our attention going into the second half of the season. The next few days are obviously going to be hot and heavy, but delighted with the result today, and we'll go forward from there.
I was going to mention, I wanted to quick mention the Irving Walsh quote. Did you see what he exactly said off Twitter?
Yeah, I brought this up a bit earlier, and it's just confusing to me how one of the best Scottish writers of the past half century, so gifted with prose, doesn't understand the concept of sectarianism. Listen, he's trolling. That's the bottom line.
His two tweets were, tough one for Hibs, but we were always going to find it hard against the financially sectarian dope club with our makeshift defense.
Wow.
However, we have the satisfaction of being the first to wear the proud green of beautiful Ireland, so ram that right up your sectarian holes.
Take it down from the masty, sticky bastards.
I say it's ironic that he supports a club like Hibs. That's his hometown club. I get it. But to say something so fucking ignorant when it was, Harry Swan in the early 50s that wanted them to take the tricolor down at Celtic Park? Come on, don't tell me about being the first to wear the proud green when your fucking club has a joke of a harp on the badge that it doesn't even fucking recognize anymore.
Get him.
Fuck him.
Choose Britannia. Choose Terry Butcher. Choose hypocrisy. Choose salt and sauce.
He should choose his words more fucking wisely instead of coming off like a dumbass.
Choose to live in Chicago. Choose your words better and stop being a dumbass, as Yumpy says. Dumbass.
He's an asshole. You know what?
We got some nice tweets in about it, though. Which let's go. Let's go here. All right. Here we go. I'm a devout atheist who finds religion disturbing, but I support Celtic, so I'm sectarian, according to a former junkie. That's from Babaru, 67. Babaru, 67. Fair play to you, sir. That is exceptionally well put.
It sounds like he almost tried to retract it just a little bit ago, too. He said, in hindsight, perhaps coming off a 4-0 defeat by one of its two principal protagonists is not the right time to be discussing sectarianism.
Well, he would know sectarianism. It is Hibs supporters that throw out terms like Fenian bastards to Celtic supporters. Ha ha ha, patter.
Someone on Twitter said that they were Twitter, you get what you get. People say stuff all the time, but they said that some of the Hibs supporters were chanting, "We are the people."
Yeah. Well, we're the sectarian ones,
right? Fucking Irving Walsh wouldn't know sectarianism if it was a bag of balls that was placed right on his chin.
There it is, right there. I got nothing.
And on that note, without
exceptionally well put, Yampy. Thanks so much as always for calling in, and we'll catch up with you next week, I'm sure. And look ahead to next few days of the transfer window. Hopefully we get something.
Oh, we have a match on Wednesday already.
Yeah, we do.
Coming up. I mean, try to make it the 10 in a row for shutouts.
That's true. That would be lovely. This is starting to get interesting. It does sort of hark back to a couple of seasons ago where we went like 26 wins on the bounce, and that was obviously the magical season when we put Rangers to the sword, and then they died.
Petty.
That's very sad story.
855 minutes without conceding a goal so far for Fraser Foster and Celtic.
Virgil van Dijk, bitch. Get some.
All he does is just come up big every fucking game.
Put him on a plane.
Don't say that, because then he'll be on a plane to, like, Barcelona or something and never come back.
Hey, either way, he's going to want to move. So, we might as well just...
Can't fucking move, dude.
We might as well just support him to be successful, as successful as he can. If he's successful for us, then, then everything will fall into place, however it does.
Oh, it's like Wanyama all over again. You got to put Charlie Mulgrew back there?
Listen, if we were going to break the bank for one player, I would hope it would be him.
I would hope so.
I mean, he's 22 years old.
Look, yeah, if you're not going to spend the fucking money on a striker, Pete, spend the fucking money on Virgil. Okay, the guy's fucking phenomenal.
Come on, Pete.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, get some more Dutch guys. Well, forget it.
I was going to say, isn't Bo Richter Dutch, though?
Yeah, a little bit. a little bit.
Just be a little judicious in which Dutch you get.
Let's be discriminatory on the Dutch. They're discriminatory against us. Their cops are, shitbags.
What do you think of Maurice Adu signing with the Union?
Did that happen?
I think it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, there's rumors about it. I don't know. I mean, you want to talk about a shambolic front office. We should just be glad. I mean, Pistol Pete compared to,
Right. Nick Sack. Yeah, Sackowitz.
And Hackworth. I mean, that's just atrocious.
Maybe they'll sell Jack Mack to Celtic.
Now we're talking.
Stop it.
We got to get Jack Mack. Bring him home. Jack McInerney.
He's like half the size of Lee Griffiths.
That don't matter.
It's like a half a thumb.
Oh, that's not right. Jack Mack's a handsome. He's a handsome Georgia boy. He don't look like a thumb.
How awesome was that thumb video?
Thumbledino.
He's going to sign with Celtic now, so it'll be like, well, I'll be getting tweets and go fuck ourselves.
Oh, God, no. Please don't make that happen. All right, look, we got Kilmarnock on Wednesday. Let's push on for 10 in a row there, and, we'll figure out the transfer window as it comes.
Hell, man, let's get that 10 shutout.
Yampy, thanks so much for calling in as always, and take care of yourself, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Never a dull moment. Thanks, bro. Take it easy.
All right, see ya. There's Yampy, better known as Scott, better known as Yampy, I guess. We should put it that way. Great stuff from him, as always. Dr. J calling in. We hope the Rev feels better. Next week we have Paul Larkin coming back, I believe, working out the finer details of that. But I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to have a discussion with him on how his documentary is coming. Obviously talking about the Astra skiers, just fantastic work. If you haven't had a chance to pick up any of the mediums, it's available in an audiobook. It's available as an ebook for your Kindle and the hard copy. Go to theastroskiers.com for all the details on that. Basically shines the light on all of the collusion that took place over the past 2 decades with the now deceased Rangers and how they cheated, not just Celtic, but Scottish football in general. It gives you all of the pieces that were involved there, connects the dots, and it is incredibly, I think, vindicating for those who read it. So if you haven't grabbed a copy yet, please do so. And as I mentioned, Paul's making a documentary on the book with a lot of contributions from many people all over the world, really, so including myself. So really looking forward to talking to him next week and hearing how it is progressing, the documentary itself, what all is involved in making such a piece. And I think it's an extremely important effort. It's an extremely important work at this moment in time. Obviously we're dealing with some ambiguity, to say the least, with regard to how Scottish football is being administered and some of the people who are in charge of maintaining the integrity, or I guess a lack thereof, selectively maintaining it, I guess is really the situation. But we're looking forward to that. So all the best to Paul with the documentary. We're going to hear a lot more about that. And again, go to theastroskiers.com for more details on how you can pick up the book itself. And we'll have our attention on the transfer window. That's really been the theme here. We're delighted with the result. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, 4-0. How can you not love that? Pookie's starting to show more signs of confidence. Neil Lennon showed, in my opinion, some tactical just brilliance today. I mean, just an awareness and an ability to adapt and adjust. And obviously Terry Butcher is never going to be able to even hold Neil Lennon's water when it comes to that. Shambolic central defending from a Terry Butcher team. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? And he has the balls to argue handballs. Well, I guess I can understand that. Poor Terry. He should just go wreck a dugout. And we have this fantastic run of results. We're just obviously, we're very passionate about the potential that this club has, and we want to maximize it. We want the powers that be to maximize it. So that's what we are going to have our attention on over these next several days, and also want to give credit, a tremendous amount of credit to the Celtic Trust and Jeanette Finley for putting together a meeting this past week that brought a lot of opinions together with regard to these issues that are affecting our club just now. Obviously the Green Brigade and how they've been shabbily treated, but not just them. I mean, supporters in general, away games, domestic games, and the role that the club has. And we're finding out more and more about how much of a role that our own club had in writing this law, this offensive behavior law, and the execution of it, and how much is driven by our own board and the powers that be within Celtic Park in terms of vilifying and prosecuting our own supporters. It's nasty stuff, but there needs to be a light that is shined on this because we deserve better. So fair play to Jeanette and all of the effort with the Celtic Trust. I strongly encourage anybody who has the means and is interested to join the Celtic Trust, make a donation. I believe it's £10. Go to theceltictrust.com, or you can follow them on Twitter at the Celtic Trust, and they have all the information regarding these meetings. And I believe there's going to be an ongoing series of meetings to address these issues. Really fan advocates with it. So and all the best to them, and more power to them in their efforts. So with that being said, for everybody who's joined us today, the Rev, Dr. J, and Yampi, my name is Graham Wilson, and taking us out as always is Shane McGowan of the Pogues. And we'll talk to you next week. Hell, and keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you, and did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years, or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know that it was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And then Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Tipped our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again across the ocean with a hand of opportunity, just tickets